Hi, I'm here to give you some advice on what to do when customer service or technical support doesn't give you the support you deserve. This has happened to me more than once, and there are companies that I will no longer deal with, such as Columbia, Greyhound, and Day Heights Auto here in Milford, Ohio. And you may be wondering, why should I listen to you, Glenn? What do you bring to the table? Well, number one, I have decades of experience in various aspects of customer service as well as technical support. I also have education background, and I have experience in IT, and I have experience in public speaking. All that comes together to mean that I know what I'm talking about, and I'm pretty good at getting what I want, especially when a company is screwing with me. There are different routes that you can take, and some of them are going to net you nothing. So if you call up and you yell at them and you threaten them and you insult them and stuff like an insane person, you're probably not going to get help unless you stop doing that dumb shit. Because quite honestly, whether you are at a fast food restaurant or a grocery store or an automotive repair shop or anywhere else, there's a law that says employees have the right to not be harassed, be it sexual or non-sexual. And that includes harassment by customers. So think about that the next time you go into a fast food restaurant and they screw up. If you start yelling at them, they have the right to refuse you service. They have the right to have you escorted off the property and not allowed to return. They have the right to file a lawsuit against you for harassment. So, same for hospitals everywhere. So you're just going to lose. You're going to set yourself up for failure if you go in there guns blazing, determined to force everybody to do what you want. It doesn't work that way. So I'm going to tell you what you should do. Number one, be polite. No yelling, no swearing, no insulting, and no threats of violence. And that includes property damage, okay? That's a type of violence. If you do any of those things, again, you can be held liable for harassment or worse. And that can be very bad for you. Not just as a customer, but it can make the difference between whether you're free or in jail. Okay, so I hope you understand that. If there are any questions about part one, then just leave those down below in the comments. And remember, be polite, because I'll report you, I'll block you, I'll delete your comments, I'll do whatever I need to make sure that you don't mess up my little world on YouTube. I've had enough of people being rude in my life, let alone the crazies. Okay, step number two. In all dealings with a company, when they are failing to meet their obligations to you, take notes. Yes, I know, it sucks. But it is very useful, because you would be surprised the number of times that I have gone into something thinking, oh, this is going to be easy. I'm going to talk to one person and it's going to be done. All right, well, that's not how it works most of the time. Sometimes it can be a real hassle. Now, there are some companies that will go out of their way to make you happy. But there are a lot of companies out there that won't, and some that are downright hostile. And some that just don't care, like Greyhound. I'll never do business with Greyhound. It's been 4 or 5 years now that I've refused to do business with Greyhound because they treated me so poorly as a customer. And I ended up having to go to my credit union and say, hey, they are ripping me off. That money should be returned to me because I didn't need those tickets, and I told them so, and they refused to cooperate. And so they lost that money. They lost those seats on the bus because they wouldn't cooperate with me and help me out. And there were other circumstances involved that it's more complicated than just that, but that's the gist of it. And I will never, ever, ever talk to or work with, or do anything with Greyhound again. I will find another way, even if it's more expensive, to get somewhere, so I don't have to give money to Greyhound. So when you call up, you want to find out the person's name. It may not be their real name. They may just give a name that they use at work. And that's okay. So long, there's really nothing you can do. You can't force them to tell you, oh, I know that's not your real name, right? Go ahead and tell me your real name because I need to know this. Just take whatever name they give you, as much of it as though they're willing to give you, write that down along with, and you should have already written down the date and the time that you're calling, or if you're emailing, you write that down too. Make a note whether it's a call or an email. If you can't reach anybody, make a note that you've left a voicemail. All those little details. Make a note of what department you've called, the number you've called, or the email you've written to. Obviously, with emails, it's a lot easier to keep track of because you can go into your inbox, unless you delete things. Write down the topic of, the reason that you called and what happened in that conversation, what results. In line with this and the next step, you must keep in mind that the regular people that you're talking to are regular people. They have no real power. They are bound by many rules. And at most companies, and there are exceptions, like, for example, if you call up Zappos, they're not properly supported at Zappos, but Zappos authorizes their customer support people to talk to you as long as you need them to talk to you in order to get your order, to help you in whatever way they can. They can search on the internet for you. They can help you find, if you're like out somewhere and you're hungry, and they can help you with a lot. They'll help you with a lot of things. And it's really surprising if you actually ask them what they'll do. I certainly didn't expect it. Not particularly good necessarily at doing that because they're not given the resources they actually need, and there are thousands of products on their website. But I stayed with one person for, I think it was 3 or 4 hours, and I was told that their record was 10 hours. Can you imagine? 10 hours on the phone trying to figure out which shoes or boots you want to get or whatever it is. So also, in line with agents not having power, and you usually will not know this, if you are talking to somebody who's working for a different company that has been hired by the company you're having that you're contacting to handle customer service or technical support, not only do they not have power to do anything really beyond what their rules allow, but their supervisors will not have very much power, and their managers will not have very much power, and they'll often have to, call somebody in the company that's hired them to get authorization for things. So keep that in mind. So you may actually find that there's a ceiling beyond which you struggle to talk to anybody higher up, that is to say, because you're dealing with an outsourcing company or an outsourced company. So that actually makes it a bit more difficult. And that was the experience I had with Columbia. I had some problems with some products, or a product that I ordered from Columbia, and I contacted them and escalated it, and they said, well, we don't have anybody higher up for you to talk to. And I was like, yeah, no. Yeah, that's baloney. So I ended up, I'll explain in a minute what I did, but I ended up getting things resolved. But I had to spend more time and effort on it than any company should make you do. And so I don't do business with Columbia. And I came very close not to doing business with Newegg as well. And in fact, I probably should have stopped doing business with Newegg, but they made it right for me in a relatively good way. A little bit stingy, but they did a good job. So I still work with them or buy from them. All right, so the next thing that you need to do when you're on the phone is to be patient. Now, I know this is going to be hard, but you have to be patient, because when you lose your patience, that's when you break rule number 1 of no yelling, swearing, insulting, threatening. So you need to be patient. And if you feel like you're starting to lose your patience, if you're feeling frustrated, tell them that and say, I realize that you're stuck in the middle. You're just a regular agent and you don't have a lot of authority. But you need to understand that I'm frustrated and you're making me more frustrated, or the rules that you have to follow are making me more frustrated or something. And that's not good. And what I like to do is I like to say, look, it's nothing personal. It's not you. Sometimes it's them. If it's them, I'll probably tell them. But if it's not them, I'll say, hey, I'm sorry. I'm not mad. Maybe my voice sounds like I'm angry, but it's not you. I'm not angry at you. I'm just frustrated because this company is not doing right by me. So if they say, okay, we're going to do this, and if they don't give you a time frame, ask. If they can't give you a time frame, say, okay, I'm going to give you 1 or maybe 2 days, business days, in order to resolve this. And if not, well, we'll go from there. And it doesn't matter. Well, I guess I can't say it doesn't ever matter, but most of the time you're going to be dealing with a company and there's no reason to give them more than 1 or 2 days. And in some cases, you shouldn't even give them 1 day, but it's hard to nail that down. So the next step, if the person that you're talking to can't give you satisfaction, or they say, okay, this is going to happen, and it doesn't happen, then you have to call back. And here's where it starts to get more challenging, because the job of the agents that answer the phone or answer the emails is to talk to you and get your information and try to make you happy. And when you call up and you tell them, you know what, I need to talk to your supervisor or manager, I need to escalate, in other words, their job is still to try to get all the information from you. It's a waste of time. I've tried. Believe me, I've tried. And in almost every case where I've taken the time to re-explain, the new person has been unable to help me any more than the previous person. There were exceptions. But the majority of the time, it has been a waste of time when I need to escalate a failure by that company to actually talk to the agent. And so what I do is I say, look, nothing against you, but I've already tried talking to agents and nothing has, and this has not been resolved. And I do not have any interest in explaining it to you because it's unlikely that you can help me either, because you're only an agent. So I need to talk to, could be a supervisor. If you've already talked to a supervisor, then you go to a manager. If you've already talked to a manager, then you go to a director. If you have already talked to a director, then you go to a senior director. Then you go to a VP, a senior VP. Then you go to the C-suite people, the chief technical officer, chief operating officer, whichever one it is that you need to talk to. You just keep on escalating again and again and again until you get satisfaction. Now, again, you may run into a situation, especially if this is a company that's been hired by the company you are buying from or whatever, that are dealing with that. And so you get to a point where, like when I was dealing with Columbia, you get to a point where they say, well, there's nobody above me. There's nobody else you can talk to. And when you're talking to a manager and they say there's nobody else you can talk to, that's complete BS. There's obviously somebody working above the manager and above that person and above that person and above that person. So when they say that, what that tells you is you're dealing with an external company and they're not able or willing to connect you to the person that you're asking to talk to. Some of them just don't want to get in trouble with the company that they're hired by, so they'll try to block you. Well, guess what? It's really simple. You go on the internet and you search for the headquarters of the company and you find their phone number and you call them up and you say, look, this is, talk to the secretary or the person at the front desk or the person who's answering the phone and say, look, very briefly, you explain to them that you've tried to resolve a problem with customer service or technical support or whoever it is, and you have escalated up to the highest person in that company and they have refused to let you talk to anybody else. So you need to talk to whoever is over them. And they'll say, oh, you need to talk to so-and-so. And so you talk to that person. And generally when you get to that point, you're going to get, if you haven't already gotten results, which sadly does happen more often than it should, then you can, as I did with Columbia, you can get resolution of your problem. But you should never, ever have to do that. You should not, but it happens. And it happened with me and Newegg, and it happened with other companies as well. So that's the next step, is if you've escalated as high as you can go and they're saying there's nobody else, and that person does not have the title of chief something or other or president, then there's somebody higher. And even then, there could be a board of directors that you could take your grievance to. So you call the headquarters. Okay? That's step 5. Now, if you have gone as high as you possibly can and they are just not cooperating, then what you can do is you can threaten. Hold on there. I know what rule number 1 is. You can threaten public exposure. How? You can get on social media and spread the news. You can go to the Better Business Bureau, bbb.org, and find their profile on there and file a review and or a complaint. Now, a review makes sure that it stays in the public record on the BBB. A complaint will force them, if they give a darn about what the BBB says of them, about them, it will force them to at least pretend to try to resolve it with you. Now, if you go on the BBB, you'll see companies that really do resolve things and the complaints are closed, and you'll see other companies that don't bother. But you go to the BBB and you post the review, you post the complaint, it becomes a public record. It informs customers who are considering using that company, and it also tells them about you. Because if you're writing nonsense, oh, you know what, I wanted it to be pink, but I ordered a blue, and 5 months later, after I got it, I called them up and said, hey, you should have sent me a pink one, but you gave me a blue one, even then I ordered a blue one, and you need to send me a pink one. Well, guess what? Then you're just going to look like a dumbass, because you're a dumbass. But otherwise, if you have a legitimate complaint, yeah, you can also, aside from social media and the Better Business Bureau, you can go to Trustpilot and other websites like Trustpilot, and you can go to Glassdoor and Indeed, although that's usually for employees to report about working conditions at different companies, or at the company that they're working at or worked at previously. Now that will typically garner a response. Like, you can go to nextdoor.com. I had a problem with Day Heights Auto here in Ohio, and they ripped me off on a brake repair. And I put a review up on this third-party website that had requested it, called RepairPal, and the review just went poof. And I didn't get any response after I put that review from Day Heights Auto. So, having been basically in an indirect way informed that, you know what, this is the price, you don't like it, we can tow your car out of here and you can go find somebody else. When I had a car that I couldn't drive, they knew they had me over the barrel and they took advantage of me. Well, I don't like being taken advantage of. So I ended up putting a review up on the Better Business Bureau and on nextdoor.com, and lo and behold, the owner of the company called me and he made it right with me. He fixed it. Now, I won't go back to that company because I don't trust the people that work there anymore. But the owner made it right with me. So sometimes that's the only recourse you have, is to make it a public issue. Then there was, aside from those places, if this is a criminal matter, or a matter where they're violating laws, but it's not exactly criminal, you could contact the Federal Trade Commission. I had to do that on a company, and they put some pressure on the company, and the company gave in to me because they had screwed up. Well, their representative had screwed up. And if it's a criminal matter, you can go to the FBI or the police. The FBI does have, if it's internet crime or internet scamming, there is a specific website. It's IC3, I believe, .gov. And you can file a complaint there for the FBI to investigate. Now, if you tell them, hey, I'm going to do this, Be ready and willing to do it. Don't just make the threat and not follow through, because that's what they're banking on. They're expecting that you're going to be like every other customer who's just going to fold and give up. Don't do that. Make sure, if they don't want to help you, to make it public. And at that point, if you have to make it public because you've escalated and escalated and escalated, and at every turn they have been resistant to helping you, and it's a legitimate concern, then at that point you should not be their customer anymore, no matter what happens in the end. I have reported, I think, 2 companies to the FTC. I've reported numerous scammers to the FBI, and the list goes on. But what I can tell you is that, I've almost always gotten what I should have gotten. One final tip. If you've exhausted all of your avenues to explore, and you're getting to a deadline as far as what your financial institution is, which I hope is a credit union, not a bank, because banks don't give a crap about you. If you're getting close to that deadline, after which they won't help you to reverse a payment, then you should contact your financial institution and say, look, here's what happened. I ordered this service or this product. It was not delivered, it was not what it was supposed to be. I need to reverse the payment or to refuse the payment. And they will take it and they will investigate it and they will decide whether or not to retract your money and give it back to you or not. Now, I've had to do that hardly ever, but I did do that with Greyhound, as I think I mentioned already. And it is a very effective way. If you have a legitimate complaint and the company is unwilling to help you, then going to your financial institution and having them retrieve your money for you is going to probably be your best bet. And that is why, when we go back to rule number 3, patience should only be 1 or 2 business days. You shouldn't let it drag out for months. If you let it drag out for months, they're going to say, well, the time has expired. And if you go to your financial institution, the time has expired. So that is a ploy that some companies will employ. They'll try to drag it out as long as they possibly can in order to prevent you from reversing the payment. Don't let them do that. And say, if you get to the point where it's getting close to the deadline, you say, look, you know what? You're not helping me. And so I'm contacting my financial institution to reverse the payment. And they may cooperate with you at that point. They may not. But that is your ace in your hand as far as getting what you are supposed to get. Now, again, please don't use this for criminal purposes. Please don't use this to rip people off. I did not make this video to make bad people more successful at fraud. Okay, I'm doing this for the people who are honestly being taken advantage of and mistreated by companies. Heck, I'm working on a couple of cases of that right now with companies. So use this information to help yourself and your family, your friends, and you'll see results. Be patient, because sometimes it takes a lot of effort and it can be stressful. And thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day.